School lunches. Documents released with the budget found the free school lunch program was super effective. Quote, initial findings indicate the program is having a profound impact on the well-being of learners. Profound. You then cut $107 million in funding from the scheme. What will your cuts mean for the impact of that program?
So a couple of things. First of all, if you want to get...
Very important question that he asked in the framing of the question. For the impact. He's talking about the impact of the scheme, not the cost of the scheme.
Down to really robust evidence, like really statistically, valid comparisons of schools that have them and schools that don't have them, and do more children come to school. The ministry did 5 different studies. One of them found that there may be a 1.6% improvement in children coming to school at a school that has the healthy school lunch program.
So that standard proof study found it was associated with improved attendance for some kids, which was equivalent to 3 days annually, which is substantial.
Well, if there's 200 days a year, then 1.6% is 3 days, isn't it?
Isn't that funny? How 3 days is substantial, but we've said this before, when they want to use the numbers in a certain way, they'll change the metric. So he's changed it to 1.6 rather than 3 days. Because, I mean, they're trying to keep people at school for all but 5 days a term. I know there's 4 terms, but 3 days is not insignificant to help kids stay at school. But that's not good enough for these guys because it's costing money and there's landlords to pay off. 3 days, not good enough.
I agree with that. 1.6% is what they found. Now, all I'd say to you is that if they really have, as you said, profound increases in well-being...
That's what your advice said, not what I said.
Well, it's not my advice, it's advice, I think.
Advice provided to you as the Associate Education
I get all sorts of advice.
It's a profound impact.
Oh, okay.
I bet you do.
Should we give them some advice? This is this time where they actually ignore the experts. Remember how Nicola Willis was saying last week, I think it was around the ferries, wasn't it? Oh, we're just waiting for the experts to tell us. And they use the experts to delay as an excuse. And then when they don't want to use them, which is every time they make a legislative change, they ignore the experts. So, yep, he's been given expert advice. And he's like, look at that smirk, that rimmer smirk. Oh, yep, we get lots of advice. I'm sure you do walking down streets in New Zealand. I'm sure you hear all sorts of pieces of advice, Chewie.
Oh, freely offered advice too.
Yeah.
Where's it gone? Great comment. Keep defending people who don't care if their children are in school. You guys are disgusting. Cole, we're just playing the video, buddy. But in this video, it features a libertarian going full nanny state. Someone who once said it's not the state's job to raise your children. Just a little bit of hypocrisy there. Just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to sort of square the circle, right? Like some people say it's a profound impact, but it didn't even get a 2% increase in actually coming to school. If it was something was profoundly,
so it didn't say profound impact on attendance. It said profound impact on the well-being of learners.
No, I understand what you're saying, but my point is
it's a broader impact, isn't it?
My point is that if something,
Jack, I understand what you're saying, and your point doesn't line up with the narrative I'm trying to paint. So I'm going to minimise it and move on to my point now.
Was profoundly improving your well-being, wouldn't you make more than a 2% effort to get it?
Well, my question is, what impact will your cuts to that funding have on the...
Possibly it's going to make it even better. I'm cautious about how I comment on this right now because as we speak, excellent people on the expert advisory group are in negotiations with the providers, so I don't want to compromise their position. But all I'll say is that there's been a lot of interest. It's very competitive. It's amazing what you can do. I was even amazed at the quality of the offerings from the providers. And put it this way, we may well end up doing this at $3 a student. In fact, I'm pretty confident we will. I suspect we might actually get better product out of it. And previously, Labor were doing it at 8.
You were saying that word before about magic, Chewie, that magic word, that they're going to pay a lot less and the quality of the food's going to be better. This is magical world we live in. Do you think? Maybe they're going to go to the maybe they're going to the bowling green. Maybe they're getting all the meals delivered from the bowling green here in Dunedin. Maybe bowling club.
So again, he paints it like they always do. Is that Labor spent all the money for low quality meals when they could have just spent less money on high quality meals. What a bunch of fucking idiots!
Yeah,
there's so much. We've covered this so much with him talking about school lunches. The man does not know how to feed in bulk, and the fact that if you fed all the kids, you would be able to do it cheaper per head. You would also remove any stigma about poor children get free meals, non-poor children don't need to. And so you cast that social curse at people. He's completely brushed past the fact that it's good for learners to be fed which is just some rock solid, like, did you not know this? And he's just focused on the fact that they couldn't bribe kids to school with a free meal. And somehow he's thinking by cutting it and lowering the quality and the per head price somehow, that the cheaper meal is somehow going to do it. What planet is this guy on? Does he even keep track of the threads that he's trying to weave?
Right, this clip's got 60 seconds. Let's get through it.
$8.61. Now, if they had introduced the model we're introducing 5 years ago, they could have saved nearly $1 billion and got the same result.
It wasn't always $8.61, just to be clear. It was between just over $6 and $8.60.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, the point is, we're saving
$3
to $5.
Sure. But so back to that question, though, because I think you talked about the tendering process. Is there a risk that you will get worse outcomes by cutting funding?
Well, I think there was already a wide variety of outcomes, but what we're seeing in the
across the board, though, is there a risk?
Well, there's always a risk until you sign the contract and see the first lunch sign up.
So what is that risk? Talk to us about that risk.
Well, the risk is that people won't like the quality that they get. I mean, that is a risk. I'd be lying if I said that we can absolutely guarantee what's going to show up at the end of a tendering process, but every indication is that we can do as well or better with less money by being smarter. That's what every business, firm, farm, family in this country has had to do for the last 3 years. Now we've got a government that's doing it.
See how he muddies it, though? He says there's every indicator that we can do better with less money. And then he goes, every business, home, farm has had to do that for the last few years. He said, we can do it better for less money. And then he said, and others have had to tighten their belts. They're not the same thing. He's not saying everybody else who did this had to save money and they all got better outcomes as well. So he's really kind of trying to, it's this shell game we talk about. He's selling the idea that they can do better on less, and then he's saying everyone else has had to pay less or spend less. But he's not saying all the other people who spent less are doing better, but they're going to. It's just it's an ultimate shell game. In fact, that's the end of the clip. It's up to there. I've got clips on the treaty principles to come from him, Chewy, but do you want to jump in with anything in between?
Yeah, look, I love that he's acknowledging that the quality might go down and that they might not like the quality that they get when he's talking about lowest common denominator slop that he wants to serve our young citizens. Yeah. I think that's part of the plan, personally, because then the next stage is, hey, look, we've spent all this money. We've been so generous and we've provided these meals, but there's so much wastage because it's fucking boiled polystyrene blocks and gravy, you know, and then he can just write off the whole thing as not being an effective program. David Seymour doesn't give a fuck about these kids unless he's Snapchatting them. Like the fact that he's associate education minister and this is the best that he's got, full nanny state, a mysterious community cop that seems to be hoarding Xboxes, and we can do more with less on the natural superiority of the right-wing party for feeding the masses is just such fairyland bullshit. I don't know why he didn't just burst into flame.